Hello everyone, hope you're all healthy and safe. In this video, we'll be learning about rates and unit rates. So let us start by defining some terms. So what is a rate? A rate is a ratio comparing two different quantities. So if you can remember, ratio can be written as a fraction. So ratio can be written as a fraction using a colon or using the word to. In this particular discussion, we'll be using mainly the ratio in fraction form. And then you have a ratio comparing two different units. So when we talk about units, let's say for example, how do you describe how far an object is? Well, to describe that one quantitatively, you use the physical quantity distance. And for distances, we use the unit meter, or it could be feet. So when we are talking about the physical quantity distance, we use the units meter, feet, inches, and some other units that describe how far an object is. And also we can use, let's say, if we say time. So what are the units of time? So when we talk about the physical quantity time, we use the units second. So commonly we can use minutes or hours. So again, a rate is just a ratio comparing two different units. So one way of saying is that two different physical quantities. So let's take this example here. You have a bike that is bike travels 54 miles in 4 hours. So you're given here that the bike can travel 54 miles in 4 hours. So if you can see here, this particular unit pertains to distance. Miles pertains to distance. It describes you how far the bike travel. And you have here hours. Hours pertains to the quantity of time. So remember that distance and time are two different physical quantities. That's why their units are also distinct with one another. So they are different units. So how do we write them as a rate? So as I mentioned earlier, we'll be writing our rate in fraction form. So in fraction form, we can write the rate as we can write that one as 54 miles all over 4 hours. So again, the rate of the bike would be 54 miles. Again, it describes the quantity distance, and the unit of time, which is hours. So the rate therefore of the bike is 54 miles in 4 hours. So that's how we write the rate. Again, in this discussion, we'll be using the fraction form, the ratio in fraction form. So you can also write equivalent rates by multiplying or dividing the numerator and denominator by the same number. So let's take, for example, 54 miles over 4 hours. So both, we can divide them by 2. So remember that if both numerator and the denominator is divided by the same number, it doesn't necessarily change the value of that, because overall this is just equivalent to 1. So is it not that 2 over 2 is just equal to 1? So essentially you're not changing the value of that rate. So you will come up 27 miles. So this would give me 27 miles all over 2 hours. Okay, so 27 miles over 2 hours is an equivalent rate of 54 miles over 4 hours. Or you can also find the equivalent rate of that by multiplying. So again, if we start with 54 miles all over 4 hours, and we will multiply that one by, let's say, 3. So again, both the numerator and denominator, so both the numerator and the denominator. Again, if you have 3 over 3, you're not changing the value of that, because essentially you're just multiplying that one by 1. So any number multiplied by 1 is the number itself. So that gives me 162 miles all over 12 hours. So these are considered equivalent rates. So 27 miles over 2 hours and 162 miles over 12 hours are equivalent rates of 54 miles over 4 hours. So let's do some practice questions here. So Sarah can make 8 friendship bracelets in 2 hours. Which of the following rates is equivalent to 8 bracelets in 2 hours? So again, to find the equivalent rate, we only have to divide or multiply that rate by the same number. So which do you think of the following rates will give you an equivalent rate of 8/2. So if you're gonna check that one out, that should be letter C. Well, why is it that it's letter C? Well, you have 8/2 and you multiply that one by the same number 2, gives you 16/4. So therefore, equivalent rate of that is letter C. So let's take the second question. So Mark can type 44 words in 2 minutes. Which of the following is an equivalent rate to that? So again, if we're gonna write the rate of this one here, you have 44 words in 2 minutes. So to find the answer of that, well, 62 words in 3 minutes. Well, I don't know what number. Would you multiply or divide by the 44/2 to give you that? For letter B, well, for letter B, so if we're gonna go over this one by one, so this is 62/3, but to get 3 minutes, what you did to your 44/2 there is you multiply it by 1.5. So you have 3. So that would be 22, 4, 4. So that would be 66/3. So if you multiply both by 1.5, it should give you 66/3. However, letter A is 62/3. So how about the second one? You have 44/2. Well, for letter B, you multiply the denominator by 2. So therefore, remember that it should be multiplied by the same number, both the numerator and denominator. So it gives you 88/4, not 84/4. So therefore, this is also not the answer. So how about for letter C? So for letter C, what you did there is you multiply the denominator by 2.5. So you also need to multiply the numerator by 2.5. So if you're gonna do that, yeah, indeed, it gives you the denominator of 5, but you have 44 times 2.5. So 44 times 2.5, that would be 22. 5 times 2. Then this is 8. So that should give you 0, 0, 1, 1, 110 or 110. So 110. So it shouldn't be 100 if you multiply the denominator by 2.5. So that's not the choice. So how about the last one here? 132 in 6 minutes. So I have 44 over 2 as my original rate. So to get 6 minutes in the denominator, what I did there is multiply it by 3. But then again, I should also multiply the numerator by 3. So 3 times 44 should give you 132. And 2 times 3 gives you 6. So therefore, the answer should be letter D. So again, just remember that when you want to get the equivalent rate, you only have to multiply or divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So it should be the same number. Okay? Because multiplying by the same number or dividing by the same number, it's just the same thing as multiplying or dividing it by 1. And if you can remember, any number that is multiplied or divided by 1 would be the same number. So now we proceed to unit rates. So what are unit rates? A unit rate is a ratio of two different measurements where the second measurement is 1. So same, however, the distinction there is that the second is 1. So usually we try to make the denominator, this one here, equal to 1. Denominator equal to 1. Okay, usually that's what we do. The denominator, if we are trying to write it in a fraction form, and again in our case, so that it can be operated much easier, we try to write them in fraction form, our ratio. So let's take some examples here, but before we do that, well, in a simple language, its amount, cost, miles, number of objects, etc. for 1 item, 1 mile, 1 hour, or 1 ounce. Okay, so let's take an example here. The rate of 180 miles in 3 hours. So you have here 180 miles in 3 hours. So again, the first number, remember that, constitute the numerator, and then the second measurement or the second number constitute the denominator. Again, different measurements, we're talking about different physical quantities. So quantities like time, it could be distance, it could be mass, it could be weight, it could be density, it could be for the quantity of volume or area. So to turn this into a unit rate, so if you want to get the unit rate of this, we need the denominator to be 1. So again, the denominator should be equal to 1. In other words, we need to find out how many miles were traveled in 1 hour. So if we're gonna do that, 180 divided by 30 is, so if we're gonna do the long division, that gives you 618,000. That gives you 60. So therefore we can write the unit rate as 60 miles in 1 hour. Okay, or you can also get the unit rate by, well, we're gonna write the original rate. So 180 miles all over 3 hours. Well, is it not that our aim is to make our denominator equal to 1? So to do that, in order for the denominator equal to 1, is it not that we just have to divide this by the same number? Because 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. So, and then if you can remember, to get the equivalent rate of that, whatever you do in the denominator, if you're dividing it by 3, you also divide the numerator by 3. Again, it doesn't affect the value of that rate because essentially 3 over 3 is just equal to 1. So therefore, this gives you 60 miles per 1 hour. So again, to make the denominator equal to 1, so what you did there is just dividing that by the same number. So if this is 3 hours, so just divide that one by 3. Again, not 3 hours, you will not divide it by 3 hours, but just the numerical value of 3. So this 3 here, and you divide it by 3. Okay, so therefore the final answer is given by 60 miles in 1 hour. So what's the importance, or what is the importance of knowing the unit rates? Well, we can use unit rates when we go shopping, and this will help us determine the better deal. Okay, so to visualize this one, we're gonna go over some examples here. So let's take this example here. You can buy a 14 ounces jar of peanut for $5.25, or you can buy a 15 ounce jar for $2.10. So which do you think is the better deal? So you can think of this one as a rate because you have ounces and dollars. So the first rate is given as 4 ounces for $5.25. The second one is you have 15 ounces for $2.10. So if we find out the cost per ounce for each jar, then we can determine which is the better price. So to do this, we need to divide, but you need to remember that we need to always put our money on top. So how do we know that one? With the dollar symbol. So you place, so when we do the rate, you try to place the number with the dollar symbol. So let's say, for example, for the first rate, we have, so for the first rate, we have $5.25 all over 40 ounces. Okay, so to get the unit rate of that, so what I'm gonna do is just divide this one by 40 and divide this by 40. Again, I can do that because 40 over 40 is just equal to 1, and that should give me an answer of 0.13125 dollar all over 1 ounce, or approximately the nearest 1 cent. You can write that one as 0.13 per ounce. Okay, so therefore the cost of the peanut butter is 0.13 dollar per ounces. So for the second rate, so this is our first rate, so this number pertains to our first rate, and that is equivalent to this one here, so the price per ounce. So let's take the second rate, which again I'm gonna write first the value, the money on top, all over 15 ounces. So again I'm gonna make the denominator equal to 1, so therefore I'm gonna divide that 1 by 15. So therefore I will also divide the numerator with 15, and this gives me 0.14 dollar per 1 ounce. So I'm just gonna specify that one, that is my second. Again, this is my second rate, but this is now the unit rate. Okay, so now the second rate gives you the value is 0.14 compared to 0.13. So since the 40 ounces jar is 0.13 per ounce, and the 15 ounces jar is 0.14 per ounce, the 40 ounces jar is the better deal. You get more for your money. So even though the 15 ounces jar is only $2.10, however, the better deal would be the 40 ounces jar, because you get more for your money. Okay, so let's proceed to other examples where for guided practice you can actually stop the video and try it on your own before try it first before you watch the video. You can pause the video and then you can work by your own. Okay, so welcome back, and so let's take these examples here. A car travels 420 miles on 15 gallons of gas. Express this as a unit rate. So how far it travel on 1 gallon of gas. So it's just the same thing as how far will it go in 1 gallon of gas. So if I'm gonna write the rate of this one here, you have 420 miles all over 15 gallons. Again, I want to get the unit rate. So to do that, I'm just going to divide this by 15, both the numerator and denominator. Again, we want our denominator equal to 1. So to do that, you have 15 divided by 15, that gives you 1 gallon. Then 420 divided by 15 gives you 28 miles. So the answer would be 28 miles per gallon. So the unit rate is 28 miles per 1 gallon. Okay. So let's take the second one. Again, you can stop the video first and then you try it by yourself. So at one store, you can purchase 7 apples. So you have 7 apples for $5.46. At another store, you can get 5 apples for $3.95, which is the better deal. Again, value for your money. So because the first rate gives you 7 apples for a price of $5.46. So at first look, well, that might be expensive since you'll be paying $5.46. But remember that you're getting 7 apples, comparing to the other one that even though you're just paying $3.95, you will only get 5 apples. So therefore, to know the better deal, we need to get the unit rate. So for the first one, I have 5.46. So $5.46 for 7 apples. So again, this is my first rate. $5.46 for 7 apples. So to get the unit rate, I'm gonna divide this by 7. And again, so that I'll not be changing the value of this rate, I will also divide the numerator by 7. So this gives me 1 apple. So essentially, the unit rate gives me the price of 1 apple. So this gives me $0.78 for 1 apple. So now I will move on to my second rate. So my second rate is $3.95 for 5 apples. So again, this is my second rate. So remember that if we're talking about money, we should place our money on top, or the numerator. So I'll be dividing this by 5, because my denominator contains the value of 5, so that's why I'm dividing both the numerator and denominator by 5. So this gives me 1 apple. So 395 divided by 5 is 0.79. Okay, so therefore, 7 apples for $5.46 is the better deal, because you pay less per apple. So the better deal is this one here. Okay, so let's take the last example or the practice here. Again, you can stop the video first and then you can try, after which you can play the video again. So one online music site is advertising 15 song downloads for $675. So that's my basis of my first rate. It talks about the number of songs and the amount or the money that is involved. And the second rate, another site is advertising 12 songs for $5.76. Which do you think is the better deal? Again, if you're gonna look by just the numbers, you might be tempted to answer the second site with 12 songs and $5.76, because again, if you're just looking at the money, you have a lower money there. However, remember that the first site gives you more song, although the amount is a little bit bigger. So to answer the question of which is the better deal, well, we're gonna get the unit rate. So for the first one, we have $675 for 15 downloads. Okay, so this is my first rate. So again, to get the unit rate, I'm gonna divide this by 15 so that I'll get 1. So the numerator should also be divided by 15. So this gives you $0.45 per 1 download. So this is the unit rate. This is the unit rate of the first music site. So let's take the other one. So you have $5.76 for 12 downloads. So again, I'm gonna make my denominator equal to 1. So just dividing it by 12, both the numerator and denominator. Again, this pertains to my second rate. This is my second rate. But to get the better deal, or to know which is a better deal, we're gonna get the unit rate. So now the unit rate will give me one download, and the cost is 0.48 dollar. So again, this pertains to the unit rate of second site. The first one is the unit rate of the first site. So now you now have the basis for your answer. So if you're gonna compare, one download for the first site only cost you $0.45. The other site will cost you $0.48. So you would say that 15 downloads for $6.75 is the better deal. So that would be my answer. So therefore, the unit rate is helpful if you want to know the unit cost. Well, again, it gives you an idea of which is in a sense cheaper. Okay, so that's all for this video, and the next video would be on proportions. So have a nice day everyone, and see you next time.